Hey guys, as you know, Belkins Podcast has a new home. We moved to a new channel. With that being said, we decided to combine the best of the early episodes into one and publish it for you on this new channel. So this is the first out of several best of Belkins Podcast. Enjoy. What are some misconceptions or common myths about sales, marketing, or business that you can debunk for me right now?
That they're optional. They're not optional. I think people have this idea that it's optional to work with a B2B lead gen company, or optional to have reps, or optional to generate revenue. It's not. It's the breadth of your whole company. So people, in a way, I think it's a common myth that you can live without it, right? Nobody who hires outside lead gen companies has it figured out, right? So I think that you could debunk anybody who's trying to act like they got the messaging right or they got it figured out, because as soon as they are hiring an outsourced agency, it's because they tried it in-house. They don't have it figured out. So I think, I hope I didn't blend the answer, but it's not optional is a myth, and that, you don't need help is a myth. You need help. And I think people need to be more honest to be like, I need help. I tried this, it's broken. They don't buy like that. They buy like, we're the best company. We got the best offer. We don't even know what it is. Why should we pick you? And they don't buy like, hey man, I need a really teammate. I need help. Here's my problem. Would you agree with those statements?
Are you satisfied with the speed of Lavender's growing?
We are growing at a healthy clip. But that being said, I'm rarely satisfied or happy with the speed of said growth. Mm-hmm. And that is more a mentality that keeps us hungry internally and keeps us pushing the ball forward faster than most would expect.
Is the team happy with the growth?
Yeah, it's a hard question for me to answer. From my understanding is I believe they're happy. One of the things in hiring people is we want to make sure that they, mesh, understand each other, work well together in that work. Some days are happier than others, I'm sure. But overall, from my understanding, people are happy.
Amir, CEO of Gong, said that to build a unicorn, you need to have two things. First, you build a product so good that a weak go-to-market team could sell it, and then you build a go-to-market team so good that they can sell a weak product.
Yes.
Do you guys at Lavender have both?
Yes, I do. I feel very confident in that. It's what's made it hard so far to scale our sales org. In particular, is we're picky about who we're going to bring on to help us scale that sales function. That being said, the folks that we have are absolutely incredible.
You should always be looking for top talent. And I have probably 8 or 9 people that I want to chat with over the next 2 or 3 weeks, simply because I saw some things they were posting and I'm like, I really like what they're thinking. And I don't have one of them, right? I don't have someone with that perspective or that speciality or skill set in our network. And I can definitely see where it could be valuable to us, clients, or perhaps others in the future. And somebody else might pose, I'm looking for, and Joe or Susie was the person that piqued my curiosity, and I might be able to refer them out simply because I was looking for that top talent and looking for constantly who are people that can make us better, that can make our clients better, can make the network better.
Right.
But I do agree, getting in the power of some real communities that speak to you and to what you do, for sure. And for those that are familiar with DISC, if you're not, you should be, recognizing the 4 different styles, what's inside of me, and then everybody's wired differently. So some are going to want the results, some are going to want the fun factor, the enjoyment factor that are in it. Some are going to want to stick status quo. This is what we've always done, and for good reason. And they're going to put the team forward to make sure any change. And then you're going to have the overly analytical ones that we need to make sure that we can build the processes, review the analytics, things on the rails. These dynamics are around. And I'd learned it and taught it and trained it, but I didn't use it as much as I could have. And then at that point, I just became the consummate learner to say, there is so much opportunity for me to use what I've learned and just my own natural desire to want to help people I need to change how I present myself. I need to change. And sometimes it takes 10, 15 minutes of preparation when I recognize certain individuals, look, they're wired differently than me, and that's okay. But I need to bring my best and adapt a little bit so they feel comfortable leaning in, sharing the things they need to share on so we can work on things and really fix. And I use DISC as an easy reference, so, and even just being able to take 2 or 3, 5 minutes and just understand the basic premise of it. Imagine if you have someone like myself who is that dominant style and it's result focused. And if there's 2 of us and we're stuck on something and I'm focused on results and they're stuck on fear of change to get those results, we're in an impasse. So to me, as the leader, it is my responsibility to fix what needs to be fixed. And so if I recognize this other person could be stuck on the whole fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of what's not familiar, I just need to accept that. Like, they're not wrong. and in some cases, it could be, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And they're like, whoa, easy, what ifs? Right. So now when we sit down and say, all right, get a sense that perhaps you're interested, you can see it. There's a but there. Let's talk about the but. What are you concerned about? What are you nervous about? How do we do it together?
I've only talked about the discount. The discount comes when you are doing things which, in my opinion, one shouldn't do. There's also a premium, which is that you sold something for $50, but you do the integration so well, you get your team so excited you're going to stay put. You help sell the combined vision that the rumor around town, investors, M&A teams, and others, that was really an $80 acquisition. That means there's now a premium on whatever you build next, which is that, you know what? It looks like 50, but what Michael is building is just solid. He's just building good stuff, good teams, excited teams that are eager to become that multiplier. That is always the case. So if you get acquired, it's typically by some entity much bigger than yours. What you have is really teeny weeny. Well, you immediately build a teeny weeny, but they look at it and say, you know what? If we put it inside this, it could become a multiplier. I could take my sales force, my market, my brand, my what have you, and I can dial it up. So you want that premium, because then all of a sudden, well, the next thing, you'll say, yeah, it looks small, but hey, take a look at what we've done in the past. Think bigger, which will be that multiplier. So I'd much rather do all that effort, even though that it looks to go against what I would want, because it becomes a multiplier in the future. But obviously, only matters if you imagine a lifelong career as an entrepreneur where you play multiple games. If you're playing one game and that is it, you can shit all over the process, burn all your bridges, and go buy that boat and be okay with it.
And they don't teach this to you in school. There's no taught about it. There's no talk about entrepreneurship, taxes, money, finance. What you could what you might want to sacrifice if you're going down this road, what you might gain, what you might have to become, right? I'm like, the most successful people in the world are the ones that say no the most, right? So they don't teach you that. They're not saying, well, if you're not agreeable, you might earn more money. Well, it's a fact, but they don't teach you that, right? So it's like, you got 2 different things. You got like mainstream trying to make you agree with everything. You want to get, I can't even say the words on this podcast, but like they want to get you to listen to them. It's a different message from the world of like how people are making it. It's people would say no. Don't agree. No, and don't agree. That was making more money. But did they ever teach you that anywhere?
No, but I don't say no. What I say, I think we can do it better. I think there's way we can actually find a better solution to this.
You're 29.
So, right.
You're going to say no, the more success you get. I would put my money on that.
Do you have other, let's say, life philosophies that help you to get where you are with your career, with your fulfillment, with your happiness?
I think one big thing that I always try to do, and my husband and I talk about this a lot for our life together as well, is this decision or is this step going to take us closer or further away from the goal we've set? I think what happens is a lot of times people set very far goals. In 5 years, I want to do this thing. In 10 years, I want to be in this place. but they forget to walk back. Okay, each step takes you there. Mm-hmm. So I do a fair amount of hiking and backpacking and those kinds of things. And so I talk about this all the time of like, if you take one step off the path, you can still see the path, you can still see the destination. You can take 1 or 2 steps off the path, get back on, no problem. If you start taking 10 steps off the path, it gets harder to find it. If you're 100 steps off the path, you might be spinning in circles trying to find the path. And at some point, you've gone completely the wrong way. It's a fork in the road. It's taking you all the way back to a completely different trailhead. And you don't even know where your car is. And you're like, how did I get here? Well, you got there one step at a time. That first step was not the problem. Honestly, the 10th step was not even the problem. So that's something that I do try to do, is to evaluate, is this the type of person that I want to be? Are these the choices that I want to make? And then do they get me closer or further away? Is it a short diversion? Is it a long diversion? Am I actually wanting to go somewhere else? That's one thing. I think the second thing that has really stuck with me, I read Atomic Habits by James Clear, which I really liked. And his comment was, a lot of people, again, they'll set goals, but they don't understand the action that leads to those goals. And so one of the things that he said is, make choices as if you are already that type of person. So if you say, I want to be fit and healthy, okay, what kinds of choices does a person who is fit and healthy make? So I'm going to make a choice as a healthy person today, not I'm not going to eat ice cream or something like that, right? So those are two things that I think, realizing the impact of the incremental gains or the incremental losses, and making those choices to get back on the right path, or to be the person that you say you are, or the person that you say you want to be. Don't wait until you have the proof points that you are that person. Do the proof points along the way, and that's how you become that person.
And the feedback, it has a big impact. And I've gotten feedback on this my entire life, but really, especially my professional life. When I'm in a good mood, things are great. I'm contagious, my energy is contagious, and I can lighten people's spirits and lighten their loads with my infectious energy. And when I'm dour or depressed, and who knows why, maybe because I didn't get a good night's sleep, maybe I'm hungover, maybe I'm just crabby, but if I'm depressed, it affects the people that I work with as well. And so that can be, as a leader, it's a very problematic tendency, because it means that the mood of the organization can shift dramatically. I find that your personality traits, they're like a Brita water filter. They're like a water filtration system. And they can be a layer between which your thoughts pass. And you're not aware that that's what's happening. And so my point is, if your thoughts pass through a negative filtration system, then your thoughts emerge as negative thoughts. Now, if you're not aware that that's your tendency, you don't know that your thoughts. So what I mean is, if you're smart, you can logically provide an argument as to why the world really is terrible. And you can say, yeah, Sam, I get it. I hear that you're telling me to be happy, and I hear that you're saying that happiness is available for me, but that's easy for you to say. You don't know my situation, and my situation is objectively fucked. And that's just true. Now, if my situation were different, I could see being happy, but my situation is inarguably bad. And here's my supporting points for why. And what you don't and this is particularly true in relationships, right? How many people have yes, relationships are 50-50, but that person is completely wrong and an asshole and an idiot, and I am correct, and they're doing me dirty. And this is no fault of mine that any of these bad things are happening. And of course it's not true, but you don't believe it because it all feels like a very logical argument that's being made in your head. And what you don't realize is that all of the arguments in your head are completely arbitrary. And they are completely the result of, as Eckhart Tolle would say, your egoic mind. And you have to question the foundational filtration layer, the thing that forms your thoughts into negative articulations and formations before they even become your thoughts. And that's super, super hard. And that is most present and most common in romantic relationships because those are the highest stakes relationships that we have. And so you have this thing of like, I can't believe she doesn't do this. I can't believe he doesn't do that. I can't believe he doesn't understand me well enough to understand that that was a terrible thing to say. And all of this feels so true and so resonant. And you don't realize that it's all BS, that most of the time nobody's trying to hurt you. Nobody's intentionally trying to undermine you. They're just wrapped up in their own thing. They think that you're the enemy and you think that they're the enemy. And you have to, so the work of going deeper than that is very hard because what you're talking about, that filtration system, that's your DNA. You know, that's the core reaction and impulses that are created from when you were very young. So how do you change it? It takes a lot of work. And I don't necessarily mean therapy. I mean recognizing the emotion, recognizing the trigger, understanding, oh, I'm angry now. Why am I angry? What is it that's making me angry? And it being much more introspective. That is the path to at least awareness of your behavior, awareness that, you know what, you're not perfect and you're not a victim either. You know, we're all just participants.
Yeah.
I think a good leader will be in the trenches with you. They won't just tell you to go to the trenches, right? And I think that's what's really important as a differentiator there, right? You know, like a good leader in a professional sense isn't just going to tell you to exit your comfort zone in a meeting. They'll be sitting with you in that meeting, exiting their comfort zone with you, or complimenting you as you push through in whatever difficult presentation you need to make, right? And that's how it works, right? Like it's kind of similar to parenting. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. And as a leader, the way you're going to be most impactful is by showing your people that you're in it with them too. And I think that's 100% more impactful than a leader who just tells you to do things that are outside your comfort zone. And I think that's the takeaway. It takes a lot to break someone who's already been broken. And so that's why I think it's important to be okay with pain, because it will strengthen you and it will refine you, right? Like if you don't open up to pain, then you'll get knocked out on the first shot. But what you want to do is you want to build resilience and you want to build stamina, emotionally, as much as you want to build it physically.
So I think mindset is the key word. So I feel as though we all look, if you talk to yourself in a good way, go on a walk, talk things out, talk things through, and really pay attention, you'll know the things that you need to say to yourself to be able to have a solid coaching moment. And one of the things that I'll ask myself, and I think I mentioned it earlier, is does this serve me? Right? So I have a goal. We're going to grow, build, do all these things. But anyone who started something from scratch, it's not easy and it's daunting and it's terrifying at times. So when you have that moment where it's just, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted or I'm frustrated or I'm confused or I'm uncertain. If you have any of those moments, the emotion can bog you down. So I will use it of, okay, how do I be proactive, or how do I use and tap into the kinetic energy, right? Do I just sit there and wallow in emotion in almost like a victim mindset, or do I accept it? Okay, so now how do I proactively do what I need to do based upon the scenario situation that's presented in front of me?
I feel like honesty is all that matters now, and I feel like transparency is all that left, and I feel like with the generation, they need that. So I feel like you need to be able to comfortable to tell people the exact truth. Hey, we have 3 months left of runway. This is what happened. I made this bad decision and we f***ed up. I think it's a learning process, and I think people will learn that there's a way to say the truth and that there are times when you might not have to say it, without lying, right? There's a difference in lying, right?
Oh yeah.
So I think it's just these are the skill sets that you don't teach in school, that you just learn by example,
packaging.
right?
Yeah, presentation packaging. Like again,
But
the same truth you can package differently, right? You can say, hey guys, we have only money for 3 months run rate. That's it. And then if, we're done. Or you can say, hey guys, this is how much money we have. We're going to last for 3 months.
But this is our opportunity to get efficient. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a totally different ballgame.
That's a leadership skill, right?
Right.
And then the same thing is this: who will I get that skill from? Right? I will get it from my network of CEOs. I'm not going to call my wife to talk about that. I can call you. I can call my other network, right? So that back to the network you build, right?
And I remember going for a run with a good friend of mine, he said, "How's it going?" And I said, and I was my usual half-hearted / less enthusiastic / frustrated self. And, he asked this question, does it help? Mm-hmm. And I asked, what help? He said, always being negative, always having something, never being proud of your accomplishments. Mm-hmm. And he said, and I said, that's a funny way of asking it, because I don't think it does. And his point was, even if you don't have a high opinion of yourself or aren't kind to yourself, the act of being kind to yourself might generate better results for you than being unkind to yourself. And that's an important part of the book, actually, which is that part of Kind Folks Finish First, the first person that you need to be kind to is yourself. And that's also a big change for me.
So I'm a first-time entrepreneur, and this is the first time I'm thrown at so many interesting problems that a company has to solve. Before that, I was a builder, a developer, and the intensity of entrepreneurship is in general quite high, because you see a lot of problems that you've never seen before, and any solution to these problems has a big impact, especially at our scale. So I've always felt a lot of intensity around my day. However, now that AI is here and it's developing faster than we've ever seen anything else before, I feel quite intellectually challenged to be able to fully grasp the impact that it has on myself as a human, on our business, on our employees, on our ecosystem, on our customers. On the bad side is that if you constantly seek that growth at all costs, and you set up your mind and your entire company towards that goal, resetting those expectations to my own brain and our employees and everybody else, it takes some adaptation, and you feel a little bit defeated to some extent. However, you get energized by the new metrics, and you start looking at all sorts of ways in which you can achieve efficiencies and growth and CAC in a beautiful, more sustainable way. Those are the things that I'm experiencing within the company. And then the ecosystem at large is also in a similar situation from what I see from the people that I speak are all going through similar things.
Mm-hmm. For me, my first 5 years is like a blackout. I don't remember about it. I just know that I worked very hard. But if you ask me some specifics, I can kind of give you as if like all the days of the weeks just blended in. And then I know distinctively about the business, though. You can tell me how much money you made in 2017, 2018. What was the team? I know all the specifics of what the company by detailed historically. But if you ask me my personal life, what did you do in 2017? I'm like, I don't know.
That's called sacrifice. You sacrifice the personal life to have a better future. A lot of people aren't willing to do that, right? And if you're not willing to sacrifice your personal life, and you're not willing to become obsessed with your business, and by the way, you can sacrifice your personal life and you can become obsessed with your business, and it still doesn't guarantee success. But I'll tell you what, without doing those two, you have zero chance of hitting success. So like if I start interviewing you and I peel back your attitude and I know what you did the last 5 years. You became a machine. You became a machine that was all about your business, right? Mm-hmm. What are the results? You're a 29-year-old that is probably in the 1% of the world, right? And probably from a income and potential and educational standpoint and just knowledge, right? Like your knowledge is probably worth more than the capital you have, right? So like you've sacrificed to get something, right? And had you not done that sacrifice, we might not be here. I think for me, success is trying to push myself to be the best version of myself, knowing that I only owe that to myself and nobody else, if that makes sense. So it's like, like I live in a duality where I have this huge ego where I think I can do anything in the world. And I also realize that I'm nothing. There could be 30,000 billion clones of me in parallel universes happening right now, for all I know, and most likely, right? How I measure happiness might be different than other people, like prestige, like reputation is very important for me. So I'd love for, for me, it's just people saying good things about me means a lot to me, right? And it always has. Like I want people to be like, Amir's a serious guy. He's trustworthy. And he gets things done, right? So like I want to be known for that, right? So I think I just do those things to get that because that makes me happy. But what might make you happy could be a different story.
What is your understanding of your successful career?
Sure. So this is an interesting question. I actually have gone through this exercise a couple of different times using, I call it the life satisfaction matrix, or a career satisfaction matrix. And for the nerdy listeners who are into mathy things, this is basically a weighted decision matrix. So you put in 5, in my case, this is what I do. I like to put in 5 categories. I like to say, here's how much each of these impacts my satisfaction. So is it 10%? Is it 5%? Is it 50%? Is it 20%? Then I like to rate how satisfied am I in each category. You multiply that out, add it up, you get a satisfaction score. So from my perspective, title is important to me. That is something that I think is representative of the scope and the breadth of the work. It's also indicative of the impact of the work. Obviously, the higher you go, the more breadth, scope, and impact you're having. I do think that the elements of the actual work, like, do I like the deliverables? Do I like the way I spend my time each day? So again, you can call that whatever you want. But I call it, I tend to call it deliverables or like the actual work. Obviously, compensation is a factor. I know people love to say like, no, it's not about the money. And I'm like, I do a lot of things for free. I don't work for free. Like that's not what I'm here for. I am here to make money. In terms of thinking about success, money is a measurement of how much impact and how much, work and breadth of scope and success you're having, particularly in tech. I think it's different if you're in nonprofits or if you're in more of a serving or helping profession. I think those should also be compensated well, but especially from a scaling perspective in the tech world, the compensation is important. In terms of work-life balance, I actually take more of an integrated philosophy, so work-life integration, but am I able to live the lifestyle that I want to live? And the answer is yes. I can make it and do shows at night if I want to. I feel like I get to have an opportunity to do cool work and that I'm able to lean into work, but that I'm able to lean into my hobbies. So that balance. And then I think that 5th piece around growth and not just am I climbing the ladder, but really am I growing my skills? Do I feel like I'm making progress? Do I feel like I am advancing my profession as well? Not just am I advancing my career, but is the profession of marketing growing and improving and making incremental progress? So that's kind of some of the factors that I look at. And then obviously I weight them and rate them and say, here's how happy I am. And in theory, it spits out a score. And if that score is, in the 90s, you get an A because I like that style of thing. I'm a type A kind of overachiever. So but I do think that it is worth evaluating each of those factors. And if you find that you're constantly in a negative headspace, if you find that you're unmotivated, sitting down and looking at those factors and saying, okay, is there one thing that's really driving this dissatisfaction or negativity? Is it all the things? Okay, do I need to reevaluate what I say I value? Do I need to be more clear on the things that I say I want? Because if I say that I have everything I want and I'm still dissatisfied, okay, maybe I need to want different things. So those are a couple of things that I look at as well. And again, why I say that you do have to take time to realize the wins, to set goals for yourself, recognize when you've achieved them, and not just keep moving the goalpost to say, oh, when I get to director, then I'll really be happy. Oh, well, now it's got to be senior director. Now it's got to be VP. Now it's got to be SVP. Or when I hit this certain compensation bracket, right? Then I'll really be happy. Well, then you hit it and now you say, oh, it's actually got to be 20% more, 30% more, 40% more, right? So I do think there is that balance between striving and recognizing the wins and being content.
But I think you would love that. How to succeed in a corporate America? Because you've succeeded.
Oh, that's a loaded question. Or how to survive. No, teasing.
Okay.
I like your frame better. I like succeed better. Yeah, it's interesting because I've worked at a lot of big companies and I have peppered some startups in there too. Honestly, I was just talking about this with my boss yesterday. I think earlier in my career, I really wanted to stay under the radar. I mean, I was working at big banks. And it's very, there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of silos. And I was really just under the radar. And it was I just got so lucky that people took me under their wings and kind of became mentors that I didn't ask for. And I was like, thank God, to help me, kind of navigate the job and corporate life. What I would do now, for sure, is actively look for mentors and internal sponsors that can help you grow in your career. People because you'd be very, very surprised. Like I tried to keep myself small and I missed many opportunities because I'm certain that there are a lot of people that want to help others. As you move through your career, you learn a lot, you make a lot of mistakes, you have a lot of successes. And when there are people like early in their journey, you want to share that knowledge with them. So you in your journey, and it doesn't matter what stage you're in your career, I think actively looking for mentors and I have mentors and sponsors and I hire coaches, all those things. I think that's the way that you're first of all going to get the confidence. You're going to get the right guidance and you're going to get the confidence and you're going to have the knowledge. And again, through communities too. Like I don't care what sector you're in. I guarantee you there's a community. Absolutely. And you go into that community, you're going to find people just like you. So the same challenges, the same successes or the same successes you want to have. So I think it's ultimately, I guess, really, it's so simple. Leveraging your network, being super intentional and thoughtful about making the contact with people, trying to add value, kind of like we were talking about it. So like, connecting with others and expanding your network is very much like, finding champions, cultivating champions. How can you deliver value to them, right? If you see an event you think they might like, tell them about it. You see a blog that they might like or an article, send it to them. And that's how you kind of exchange that value and people want to start working with you. And as a result, what I have found is that when you are so intentional and you're like curious and you soak it in and you support others, if somebody's at a webinar, I'm going to attend that webinar if I can make it. I'm going to do all those things and they're going to do that for me. And you're going to get the most interesting, people are going to invite you to work on interesting projects. And you're going to have many, many more opportunities. So I think for corporate America or any company, for just personal upskilling, there's so many opportunities, but it starts with you. You're the only one. Like you have to just like step out. And again, it's so easy to just be small, but you're never going to have a fulfilled life. And all the money in the world isn't going to make you happy unless you're really, really seeking your passion, fulfilling it, and really engaging with other people in that way. Because you're going to get the best opportunities that way. I guarantee it.
The other change that's happening that I'm very grateful that's happening is a lot more focus on being intentional about treating customers and not just like a number in the spreadsheet, but providing value to the customers in a way that was not paramount before, and an increased attention to the customer experience overall through that full cycle. And as a result, because the customer becomes paramount, then there's a lot more collaboration that happens within the team. Teams are becoming aligned and they're working together better. So it promotes a lot more collaborations internally as well, which is beautiful to watch. People have this dystopian view that we have to be self-reliant, but the reality is that humans, we are a lot reliant on others, and we can only thrive if everybody else around us is thriving.
So I wanted to have this kind of terminology straight. So when we talk about social values or social collaboration or society in general, so do we mean the values that you said are set up in us when we are brought up, when sort of like there is like a nurturing process, or we're talking about the other part of when it's already a cultural predomination?
So I think it starts with the first and becomes the second as we grow older. To me, the very beginning of values is nurturing. So look, you and I could not possibly be here if we were not nurtured for the first several years of our life. So every human being as well as every mammal, experiences nurturing as their first experience of the world. It is unconditional love that you're receiving. We call it love. You can call it whatever you want, but you're totally dependent on it. It makes you feel wonderful, and it's a gift. So I think if you think about thinking, and so what it makes you want to do is give back. And if I had to think about one thing about going beyond sales, in sales we tend to initially think, I'm in it for myself, I'm in it for my company, I'm in it for me. And what you realize at some point is you're going to be a lot more successful if you put yourself in service to something beyond yourself, beyond your company, beyond. And I think value, that second set of values where you try to give back to your parents, give back to your siblings, give back to your team, your community, that's the beginning of and that leads to culture, because then culture is, well, how can we institutionalize some of that giving back and contributing to things? And then eventually the culture itself starts making demands. And in adolescence, that's very disturbing, because you find yourself being at odds with your culture. So every adolescent rebels against something, right? It's like, I hate this. This is a terrible idea. And so there's a bunch of tension and stress, but I think it's part of what forms the personality.
Jeff, there are two camps on AI. Those who think that AI could pose an existential threat, and those who are less concerned. What camp do you belong to?
Well, it's interesting. I think there's cases for both camps, but I'm pretty much in the second one. I think the things we have to gain from AI are enormous. I think that we don't know quite of the risks yet. Just as we learned with social media, that social media had dimensions that we didn't anticipate and that we're now struggling to regulate. I think we'll have the same problems with AI. But again, with social media, I think there's so much been gained by it. I think the gains outweigh the losses.
What would you say for those people who are more concerned about the existential threat?
Well, I mean, we live in a Darwinistic world. There's always been existential threats, right? Saber-toothed tigers were an existential threat. I mean, evolution requires us to respond to existential threats. I would say that climate change right now is a more serious concern than AI personally, and we seem to be ignoring that pretty well. So, I think the human race tends to wait until it gets its back up against the wall before it actually confronts things like this. In the meantime, I think people have other agendas, and existential threat can play into their narratives in other ways. And so I think a lot of that may have to do with that as well.
Things that are happening right now, and it's really hard to catch up, because every day I feel like there's something that I've missed, and some tool that does something different, or some new feature that I might have missed from ChatGPT or something rather. I'm watching closely how the developments that are coming through from Google and from OpenAI and from Stability AI are impacting every single person in our team. And there are so many things that can be replaced in our day-to-day by putting a bot in place or a model in place to do the type of work that we've done in the past. And I'm talking about obviously some basics like writing effective copy or creating an image for a blog post. But it goes deeper than that, because even insights that in the past might have been harder to gather from the data now are easier to get to. A lot of the tasks that we've had before to look at lookalike audiences for our ICPs, or figuring out how to touch our audiences in all the communities or all the places that there's so many things that all of a sudden can be taken over in our day-to-day. So as humans, the skill sets that we can develop now, or the things that we can pay a lot more attention now, differ so much from 6 months ago.
I remember the last time we had a quick chat, you mentioned that because of the technology, people already are a little lazy with regards to some of the soft skills or communication that they have because of that kind of technology that always enables them and help them. And that sometimes when you get on some in-person meetings or when you get on some, Zoom calls with someone, then, and I'm quoting you here, you said that it's a dumpster fire.
and it often can be. I keynoted on this topic here a month and a half ago about the rise of AI and such, and how it impacts the communication. So and prior to, I spoke to a gentleman who was a CEO, founder of an artificial intelligence data group, and one of the biggest things he said is, I wanted to make certain that AI was used to give people back time to be more efficient so they could reinvest. Well, so he could reinvest and then subsequently others, but could reinvest more time back into the people.
When we had something about 150 people on board, I was told by someone from my network that when you guys move to 200, 250, that's going to things start being real interesting, because there will be some problems that you haven't expected before, and things start shaking up in terms of your company culture, the leadership development, some of the other things. Have you had that moment in your sort of like transition, and when that happened, and what was that kind of transition moment for you guys?
Jesus, the biggest thing for me was the realization that people were not talking to me at all the way they used to. In the past, they would tell me there was a problem, here's a problem, here's how we're going to fix it. And they would come to me with all sorts of things. And around 200 employees or so, I felt like I was the scary person in the room where nobody would ever tell me anything. And I didn't understand, because I was still the same person. There was like nothing happening towards me. And I've always been very inviting of errors to happen so that we learn, inviting of transparency around everything that we do so that we can take action together. And this was before the layoff, so I wasn't the big scary person, but the conversation still sounded so strange to me. They didn't sound like the same people as I was used to talking. And you could hear these moments of silence, and I could hear that there was stuff that was not said, and I could not put my finger on it. It was fascinating for me to observe that style of communication. And I'm constantly right now working to undo that. How can I get back to the roots of the problem? How can I get back to understand what's really behind the scene, which really pains someone, to have that trust that they can take action? Because otherwise, if I'm not being told the full story, I will never understand it. So I will never be able to take the right action.
Do you think that everyone should have a difficult boss? Someone like Devil Wear Prada, or someone that would be tough on them in the professional environment, or no?
That's an interesting question. And no, I think no. I don't think that having a difficult boss teaches you as much as having a powerful mentor or a good leader, right? A difficult boss, can hurt you emotionally. It can impact your mental health and your wellness. You're not going to learn much from a bad boss, except maybe what to look out for in your next boss. But those learnings about what to look out for in your next boss are so minimal to the positive impact that a good leader could have. A good leader could take you to levels you've never seen. A bad manager is just going to show you a few characteristics that you don't want.
What's the power dynamic in these relationships for you? You're equals, or as they said, you're primus inter pares, Julius Caesar.
I'm not a fan of equals, and there's enough blog posts and podcasts and commentary out there that would agree with that fact, for if you are equals, you might later be confused about some particular fork in the road. If we can't do nothing, we must do something. I suggest left, somebody else suggests right. We probably don't even know which one is the better one. We have opinions, no data yet. You need somebody who say, we go left. And it is what it is. So I've always liked the idea that I would be the kind of majority founder. And that requires something that I arrive early on. Perhaps I arrive with the idea. Perhaps I arrive with, I always arrive with a little bit of capital just to kind of get the whole thing kind of started. And that sets the tone. Well, yes, Dennis kind of pulled out his wallet. The whole thing kind of seems fair. And we're here today because he pulled out his wallet. Yes, we raised a little bit of capital, but we still had to pay for those first 5 months. And so he did.
So, that's the cap table. So you were saying that the power dynamic is the same. So you're the majority founder, the CEO, the boss, and then sort of like they kind of consult with you, but then you always make the final. So they kind of consult, hey, Dennis, what can we do with this or that, right?
That's a good observation. I think my point is, it is rare you see a cap table and power dynamics has a slightly negative connotation attached to it, but nevertheless, reversed, that you have somebody for where they have a larger chunk on the cap table, but have very little power in the venture itself. And by the way, power is not a good word here because it rhymes with some of the kind of political friction at larger companies, where in a startup, if you think about you assembling power, you probably already lost. The whole thing is so hard that even just trying to get half of a first customer is nearly impossible. So trying to figure out in what meeting I have what power or what set of votes just doesn't matter. Of course, getting a little bit of success, the arrangements we made in the beginning are now cemented and you can not really change them, especially if you got external investors. You can't move things around or it becomes very difficult. So sure, you can just create a setting in the beginning that you would like to be fair, honest, and reasonable in the future as well. But there are no kind of power dynamics as you kind of set out to see.